Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon, flying solo this week because I have got an extensive chat with Revolution Saints and Burning Rain guitarist Doug Aldrich, formerly, of course, of Whitesnake and Dio. And we talk about everything. We talk about how Revolution Saints got together, the music on the album. We talk about his time with Dio, his time with Whitesnake, why he left Whitesnake. We talk about his audition with Kiss back in 1982 and the solos that he recorded for the Kiss Creatures of the Night album, and of course what happened to those solos. And Dee Snider of Twisted Sister recently took to Twitter to say some things that were somewhat snarky in Doug's regard, and of course Doug has a chance to answer those back. And we talk about his band Lion. We talk about his time with Hurricane and vocalist Kelly Hansen, who of course is now with Foreigner. We talk about his show in Vegas. Just absolutely so much stuff. And I've said it before, and I said it on the Dean Castronovo interview. If you have not heard the Revolution Saints album, and if you have not picked it up, you absolutely must. Head over to Pledge Music, head over to Amazon, wherever you can find it, and just pick it up. It is going to be by far the best melodic rock album of 2015. I'm telling you, by the end of the year, when we do those best of lists, it is going to be on the top 3 lists of pretty much every melodic rock critic. So without further ado, here is Doug Aldrich.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Doug. How are you? Very much looking forward to talking to you about Revolution Saints. I know we've talked about other projects in the past, but this one really is just absolutely fantastic.
Cool. Thanks, man. I'm glad you're digging it.
Yeah, you know, they sent me a copy about 2 months ago, and I just haven't been able to put it down. It's just wonderfully crafted. So let's start with that then. You know, what's his name? Serafino over at Frontiers Records likes to put these sort of super groups together. It seems to be his passion.
That's
Yeah.
right.
When he decided to put you with Jack and Dean, what was your first reaction?
It was actually started off as Dean's solo project. That's really
Really? Okay.
Where this thing kind of came. It started that way, and he he loves Dean. He loves Journey, obviously, and they had pulled some songs together that they thought would be great for Dean to sing on, and as you can hear, Dean he just sounds amazing on this stuff, and so they were starting the idea going, and Serafino asked him, who do you want to have on your record, you know? And he said, well, I would like to get Jack on bass, and then some way they came out and asked me to do it, and I was like, I thought that was really cool for Dean, because I'm a big fan of his. He's a great guy, as you know, and we got to be friends when Whitesnake and Journey were touring together, and well, we toured together a lot over the years. I was in Whitesnake, but we did a really substantial tour in the UK in 2013.
Right.
And Dean and I just hit it off, man. And I used to love to go out and watch him and Neil wail every night. I mean, you know, when people go on stage and you say, hey, they're giving it all they got and all that stuff. Dean is one of those guys. Every night he brings it every night, and I used to just love to watch him play drums. I knew he could sing, but you know, when they asked me about doing this, I thought, what a great idea for him. And then it kind of turned into a band vibe, you know, and turned into a project for the 3 of us, and that's even better.
Yeah, it really is. Is this something for you that's just a one-off, though, and you move along? Or do you really want to make it into a band and have a second album and a third album and a tour and all the trappings of what a band means to be?
You know, any kind of trappings with these guys would be a lot of fun. We got together and worked out. Well, we were finishing up some vocals that Dean and Jack were doing, and then we were doing videos and photo sessions. And it's just a great chemistry of personalities, first of all, and playing in a room, just when we're rehearsing for videos and stuff. It would be amazing to take this on the road, and that's what I really think, would define a project versus a band.
Right.
It remains to be seen. To answer your question, we've actually already got some really substantial offers to play, but we have to work around everyone. All three of us have different schedules going on, and especially Journey is everyone's got a kind of, let's call it a day gig,
Right.
And so Journey's definitely a huge part of Dean's life at the moment, and he's got responsibilities, for the guys. So we're going to have to work around that schedule, and Night Ranger, and I've got stuff going on too. So, I think it could happen, but we'll have to see. And then once you do a couple of gigs or a small tour, then you get the taste for it, and we start doing more, and then that leads to it leads to more records. But it'll remain to be seen. I hope so.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, because, like I said, the album is truly fantastic. I can just see by December, when it's time for those best of the year lists, this one is definitely going to be in my top 5, if not in the top 1 or 2. So,
well, that's really cool. That's really cool. It means a lot coming from you, because I know you hear everything that comes out, and this record. It's very different. It's like not what. For me, it's very different. It was a challenge because I wanted to kind of bring, obviously everybody had to put their stamp on the songs and make them their own, and we were given freedom to kind of rewrite some riffs and parts and arrangements and stuff, and I think we all worked together well. But it was a challenge for me because it's definitely it's much more melodic and maybe a little bit lighter than what I'm kind of known for, and I really loved it. I really loved, especially the ballads, because they're not like sappy ballads. They're just really heartfelt, cool tunes, and I was able to play more melodically than maybe what I've been doing recently in the past. As far as soloing and kind of channeling Gary Moore and different, Neil Schon and David Gilmour, stuff like that, which is really cool. Not every record has to be just in your face slamming. Although this record's got that, it's also got some really delicate stuff too, which I dig.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you mentioned Neil Schon. He's on the song "Way to the Sun." Neil obviously is a guitar hero. Been around for, what is it, almost 50 years now? 45 years of career?
Neil's a legend. Neil is, he's one of rock guitar's treasures, that guy.
Yeah.
We're friends, and I'm also a huge fan of him, of his work.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, because you were still in the middle of giving him accolades, and he deserves every one of them.
Yeah, no, Neil's really fantastic. Another band that I've actually been listening to a lot these days is your other band, Burning Rain. I for some reason pulled out all the Burning Rain CDs about a month ago and have just been playing them to death. What's the status of that band that you do with Matt Starr, of course, who's in Mr. Big these days? You've been doing some shows. Is there a new album coming up? What's sort of going on with the Big Rain? I mean, the Burning Rain.
Burning Rain.
Right.
Yeah. It's there's all. It's definitely on the books. I think it was a little bit unfortunate at the timing of the last Burning Rain record, because I had squeezed that record in around working with David.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a live record and a DVD at the time, and I just, I always was 1,000% for Whitesnake, and that's how I wanted it to be, and it was awesome. It just with Burning Rain, I had signed the original deal for that third record for Epic Obsession almost 10 years earlier, and Serafino started to go, dude, where's my record?
Right.
So I was working with David, and I thought, I got to get this thing knocked out. I got to do it. So Keith and I would basically work on weekends at night. I'd come home from Reno working with David, and Friday night put my son to bed, and then start getting in the studio with Keith. And Keith St. John, he's a night owl anyways. That guy, he never sleeps.
Right.
So we'd work all night, then I'd sleep, wake up, hang with the family, and then, put people to bed and go back to work. And then we got the record done, and then it was released at the same time as Whitesnake getting ready to go on tour. So I could never really support it. But since now freeing up some time for family and other things like Revolution Saints and
Right.
Burning Rain, I would absolutely love to. And we're planning on getting in the studio this year.
Oh, I look forward to it because I tell you, for the last week and a half, I've had this song "Smooth Locomotion" just going on a loop in my head. It sounds very Van Halen-ish to me. Were you a huge Van Halen fan?
Oh, I love Van Halen. I absolutely love him. That it's weird when you put different people together. What you can sound like, and that lineup with Keith and a great friend of mine, Ian Mayo, and Alex Makarovich. That was the same lineup for those first two records. Alex, I think, had it just felt, some of those songs just kind of had that Van Halen bounce to them.
Yeah,
and Smooth Locomotion was one. But I would consider, like, from my end, an influence of that would be like Blue Murder or something like that, or Whitesnake, or for me, that's kind of where I was coming from. But yeah, I love Van Halen. When I still sometimes I'll sit around and think about the first time I saw Eddie play, and now with YouTube and stuff, being able to go and watch all kinds of different shows, I miss those days. We're all kind of, getting a little bit older, and time moves on. There's no way to stop it. But man, when all of us were, in our 20s, Eddie was just, man, he was just on fire, that guy.
It's interesting that you bring that up. You've been around since the mid 80s. You've been playing professionally with so many bands, from Dio to Whitesnake, Burning Rain, and all this stuff. Do you still get excited? I mean, you're sort of a rock god and a guitar god for many younger fans. Do you still get excited at seeing somebody like Eddie play? Do you still look for new guitars to inspire you, or are you like, you know what, I got my own thing, I'm good now?
I really, I guess what it is once you have your influences and the people that inspired you and the music that you loved when you were a kid, it's, that's still the closest to your heart. So for me, it's always going to be looking at videos of Tony Iommi and Ritchie Blackmore, and especially Jimmy Page. And then, it goes on and on. I get excited to watch those guys because you forget about it. You forget about how cool they were. I mean, I remember, like, as an example, Jimmy Page, for me, pound for pound, is my very favorite, because he just had everything. And I was recently watching some stuff on YouTube, and he was always kind of known for, maybe he was a feel guy. He wasn't like a super technician guitar player, but man, I'll tell you what, when I was watching this stuff, his playing is just spot on. And I don't, people would sometimes in the 80s say, Jimmy maybe was a little sloppy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's not how it sounds. It sounds like feel, and it's got attitude, and it's not technically perfect, which is actually great. That's what makes it feel good. And I do get excited. It's hard to, when you're 50, it's hard to get excited about a kid that's you know, that's 22, but I do appreciate,
Yep.
you know, when I see some kids play, and there's some younger guys. There's a guy that I've been watching. He's got his own thing right now that I think he's just really cool. A guy called Nick Perry.
Yeah.
And he's a great player, and I really dig what he's doing a lot. But it's hard, like I say, it's hard to get jacked up about stuff unless it's your heroes. You know, my heroes are older than me, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of heroes, and I know we've talked about this once before. We've interviewed before, but you auditioned for Kiss. If you just want to just give me that story one more time for the record. This was, I think you were, what, 16 years old? Or it was very young,
No,
right?
I was 18, but
okay.
For me, when I was 18, it was more like being 14. That's really, I didn't know anything about the world. I knew nothing. My parents, bless them, but man, they let me free. They let me free in Los Angeles when I was, you know, mentally
not ready.
Elementary school.
Right. And this was what, 1982?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Yeah.
It was 82, and I had moved to Los Angeles in 81, in summer of 81, and started playing around and put a band together and started playing. There was this place Kazari's on the Strip, and that was the first place that I played on the Strip in Los Angeles. And a girl came and said, you know, Kiss was auditioning guitar players, and I think you'd be perfect. And I didn't believe. She said she was the girlfriend of Eric Carr.
Right.
And I didn't believe her. But a couple weeks later, we played again, and she showed up. You know, and this was like, it's just kind of bizarre that, you know, 2 weeks ago by, and I didn't even think about it. You know, it wasn't really on my mind. But she came back and brought Eric, and he was super cool. And he also said, you know, I'd like you to come audition, and then I knew it was for real. So I actually didn't have a phone at that time. My phone had been cut off. It only took me 6 months to get the phone company to cut me off because I didn't know how fast you'd rack up, you know, a phone bill. And so I told him I worked at this music store and gave him the number there. And he called the store one day and he says, you know, I want you to come down to the record plant tonight and meet the guys. And so I did, and we ended up, you know, he took care of me. He's like, let's go into this bar and just have a beer real quick, and then we'll go over there and see the guys. And you know, it was a little. I'd never really been in that situation, so I was a little nervous. But once I got my guitar on and started playing on some tracks, it was really fun. And people have to kind of remember, at that time, nobody had seen them without their makeup.
Right.
So it was a little weird for me because I was, you know, I wasn't like the most. I'm a much bigger Kiss fan now than I was back then. Kiss was kind of maybe you know, my younger sister had Kiss records, and I didn't realize, you know, I liked them and stuff, and I used to listen to them, but I felt like Zeppelin was really my band. And it turns out that, you know, Kiss is equally, you know, they're super relevant in the history of what's happened in rock and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And music. But anyway, back to the story. I played on some of their songs on Creatures of the Night in the studio, and the funny story was Gene goes, you know, I like what you're playing, you know, we want you to come play live with us. But he said, do you ever play major scales? And I was like, I don't know, what is that? And he started singing Do, Re, Mi. And yeah, I know that. So he basically was saying, try something a little more major over that song.
Right.
And so, of course, I knew how to play it. I just didn't know what it was called.
Right.
So that whole experience, you know, was a wake-up call. And we did actually jam a couple times. And they called me back. But the thing I remember most is it was my first time to play through. I think it was 4 Marshall stacks, and I could play as loud as I wanted, and it was just insane, man. You know, I owned one head and 2 cabinets, I think, and this was playing through 8 cabinets. that were all wired up, and it just sounded immense. It was killer.
They didn't get to a point where they were talking makeup design and contracts with you. They just were interested.
No.
Okay.
That's funny though. I wonder, maybe, who knows, man? But I would have been the sheep.
That's right.
But anyway, the little lamb.
Little lamb.
Because I was just a kid, man. These were. Gene was dating. I think she was dating like Diana Ross or Cher or somebody, and Paul had they were young too, and they were kind of rock stars, chasing, going around the world with different people. And I was just this kid, but we didn't talk about makeup or anything. But we did play a couple times, and Gene always he's always been really cool to me. And it was about 5 years ago, he came to a show in LA, Whitesnake, and he said he sent me an email and said, I'm really proud of you. You did done really well, and I hope David's taking good care of you, and all that stuff. And
That's very
cool.
That's right. Do you know if those sessions were recorded?
Well, we did record guitars on them, but I'm for sure that they got wiped. It was just like a test.
Yeah,
and this was 2-inch tape.
Right.
So at that time, those guys were probably running, I don't know, maybe they were running 48 tracks or whatever, and those tapes would get filled up quick. So an audition, and I'm sure they auditioned a lot of people. So they probably wiped all that stuff, but it was just some solos. I think at that time, they were kind of feeling like they wanted to get a little more of a hot shot kind of guitar sound.
Right.
Because that was starting to go on at that time. And it's unfortunate because Ace is such an amazing player, and that's why I compared him to Zeppelin, because Ace really reminds me of being like, almost an American kind of Jimmy Page in a lot of ways. And his playing is so tasty, and you listen to his solos now, and that's amazing, So it was unfortunate that he was out, but I think that's what they were trying to do, is kind of upgrade their, kind of supercharge their sound a little bit.
Well, it certainly worked on Creatures of the Night. I don't know how much time we have, but I do want to get at least two more topics in before we go.
Okay.
Quickly, Whitesnake. You spent 10 years with them, and then suddenly you're not. To tell me a little bit about, on the positive side, about being in Whitesnake. What did it mean for you, your career, personally, growth as a musician, all that stuff? And then why the decision to walk away from it after a decade?
Actually, it was even over a decade, because I think it ended up being a little over 11 years, actually. But it was all of what you said. It was a great opportunity that started off with just, when I was on the road with Ronnie, and we packed in a lot during 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, somebody said, "Hey, Ronnie, next year," I think it was a promoter said that Scorpions and Whitesnake was getting back together with Covered In on Sykes and a bunch of people, and they were going to do a tour and with the Scorpions. And Ronnie was asked, do you want to be on it? And Ronnie said, "No, we're going to work on a record, and not interested at this time," because we were in the middle of doing a year-long tour anyways. And
right.
I think he was thinking like we'd done enough. Now it's time to get back in and do a record. And all of a sudden, somebody said, David's been keeping his eye on you. And somebody from the Deep Purple camp told me that. The lighting director is a friend of mine called Louis Ball. And turns out David called and said, I'd really like to meet with you. And I flew up and met him. I've been a huge fan of David's for years, dating back to around 85 or 84. I first heard the early Whitesnake stuff via Cal Swan, which is a whole other story. But
mm-hmm.
The early Whitesnake was not released in the U.S., and not many people, even in 2002, were really that hip to those early records that much. Only diehard Whitesnake fans maybe.
Right.
So I met David, and I had a little bit of a, I had a background with him already, and we hit it off. And the 2 months, I agreed to the 2-month tour with Ronnie's blessing, and it turned into, that tour turned into 9 months, and ended up that, I ended up leaving, to be full time with Whitesnake, and then we kept touring and everything. But in the end, everything that you mentioned happened. David brought out so many qualities in me and brought out the best in me, and I really grew a lot. I mean, Ronnie taught me how to really work the stage and perform and be fearless. Ronnie was fearless, and he taught me that. And then getting with David, took it even to a whole other level, because we were playing even more and more shows and headlining festivals, and he, I was his right hand man for all that time, and it was great for me. He trusted me, and I took it with pride to try and do my best to keep the band moving in a good direction. That was what David had, with the integrity that David started all those years ago. And that was another thing that I learned from Ronnie too. I have to keep bouncing back to Ronnie, because Ronnie would, he never would. He'd always be thankful that I was thoughtful with where he came from. He never got upset with me really ever until I actually left the band. But I wanted to maintain the level of professionalism and the sound quality and all that stuff of what Ronnie started with. Even though I can't play like Ritchie Blackmore or Vivian or any of these guys, I do my own thing. I still wanted it to be as good, and that's what I brought with David. And I think David, very soon after working together, he started to trust me a lot, and I trusted him. And we hit it off musically, and I mean, we wrote so many songs together that I'm just very proud of all that stuff.
So then why walk away?
Well, it got to the point where we were working on a project. First of all, we didn't know what the schedule was going to be for 2014, and we had toured a lot for 2013, and we had some time off around the holidays and wasn't sure, because David was putting together his studio.
Right.
And I had agreed to what became Revolution Saints. I had agreed to work on that, and I also had taken a gig in Vegas with some buddies.
Right.
That is basically like a super group cover band. It's
Rating
the Rock Vault.
Right.
Yeah, it's at the Tropicana, and it's a big show, and it's got, it does really well. And it was sold to me on the premise that, hey Doug, why don't you come jam with us? You get to play every night, and you don't have to go anywhere. And all these guys are friends of mine. Howard Leese and Hugh McDonald from Bon Jovi is such a fine bass player, and Howard's such an amazing musician, from the singing all the way to keyboards, everything, and of course guitar. And Jay Schon, who I'd worked with in Hurricane, and he had since played in Asia and a bunch of stuff, and Rob McCauley, who I'm a huge fan of, and then some guys I hadn't met before, like Paul Shortino is a long friend of mine, and then Andrew Freeman. This guy can sing his ass off, and so I started doing it. I told Dave I'm going to do this thing for a couple months and see how it goes, and I was just really digging it, and it was great for me because I was able to spend a lot of time with the family, and I kind of really realized that I needed to do that more, especially spend time with my son. And David all of a sudden said, "Okay, we're going to get SS Whitesnake back up and running. I need you up here, Doug." And I was there. I had to work a little bit around the schedule that I had set up already. Of course, Revolution Saints was going to have to take a back burner. That was for sure. I was going to have to work that around, just like I did Burning Rain. But I couldn't just walk away from Rock Vault, because, these guys were counting on me, and we had already been playing for a couple months, and I needed to make a decision what I was going to do. And I thought, they told me that I could cut out when Whitesnake needed me. I just needed to get a sub,
Right.
So that's what I was in the process of doing. And meanwhile, I started working with David on what is his upcoming project. And we started working during the week on my off days. And I thought we were kicking ass and we were accomplishing a lot. But David, I think he just really wanted me there full time.
Right.
Like I had always been before. Like I said, I had always been 1,000% for Whitesnake, and still was going to be, and still wanted to be. But he needed it. He wanted it now, and it was some tense moments. And I just felt like, I'm really proud of what we've done together. I don't want it to have it become tense or weird or whatever. Because I love David, and he's one of my favorite singers, and he's one of everybody's favorite singers.
Yep.
And he still can sing his ass off, and he's still got this amazing tone. And but I just wasn't feeling like we were on the same page in terms of, I needed a little bit more flexibility. And David took Whitesnake on hiatus when his son was about that same age. He took some time off from Whitesnake. And I just made a decision. Look, I need to be there for my boy, and that's what it came down to. And I didn't want it to get weird with David, or I didn't want to have that conversation. I just decided, you know what, it's time for me to step out and make room for some new Snake blood to get in there. Which he got Joel Hoekstra, who's
great,
fine guitar player, and he's going to be awesome with him. So. And of course, Red, all the guys.
And I get that, as you get older, you just sort of want to, I used to go out on tour and do all this stuff. And when my kids were born, I just go see the shows that are in Montreal. And then once in a while, I'll head out to like Albany. But you sort of become more home based, right? That's what family does.
Well, when it comes to
kids,
you never know until you have them.
Yep.
But when you got that little, and I got the greatest son, man. It's the best gift I could ever have been given in my whole life.
Yep.
And David facilitated me being able to take care of him, but also we toured so much, and I was so busy, always working up in Reno with David, or up in Tahoe, that I missed a lot of his first 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So I just made a decision. I want to be with my boy. That's it. And I can still tour. I can still do recording. And I told David, look, if you need me for anything, man, I can kick ass for you all over the world. It's wherever I am and wherever you are, I can still do anything. Any help, I'm always going to be there. But just right now, I need a little time on my own. So that's where it went down. And like I said, I was very proud, and I know David was too. Really proud of what we did together musically, and the original music, especially songs like Forevermore and and even I was listening to Good to Be Bad, A Fool in Love Again. I listened to the other day and Call on Me, and those I hadn't heard them for a year or two, and that stuff kicks ass, man. It's really good.
Yeah, and there was you had a track I think called Dog also that was pretty crunchy.
That was kind of a dark horse track because
it was great.
That was actually one of the first. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, David loved that track.
Yep.
That was like one of the first things we wrote together back in 2003 or 4 or something like that. We kind of started to bang around some ideas and stuff, and there was no plan or anything. We just were doing it for fun and seeing what we come up with. Actually, I'd take that back. Not seeing what we come up with. We were just doing it for fun. Really, that's all it was.
Yep.
There was no plan of anything. I was kind of maybe seeing what it would be like to write with David, and that was one of the first things we did. But I'm really proud of that stuff, and not only just from the actual end result, but I was happy with the process. Songwriting is a really fulfilling thing, as you know, or writing and being creative in any capacity is really fulfilling. And so those times when David used to come to my house for a week, and he'd basically take over my whole house. He'd bring like a moving truck almost and load in, and we would create 3 or 4 songs over a week, and then he'd drive home with a CD, and the next week I'd drive up to Tahoe and be at his house for a week, and it was just, you know, driving back and forth, listening to the stuff that we were creating, not really having a full-on plan or anything. It was very fulfilling, and we were doing it for the right reasons, because obviously, like, at the beginning, we didn't have any plan to do a record. Good to Be Bad, the first full-length record for Whitesnake in like 10 years or whatever, was just songs that we had kind of started putting together for fun.
Right. Well,
and so, all that being said, of course I'm going to miss the guys. I really appreciate the support of the fans, and David he really put me on the map, you know, and gave me an opportunity to put myself on the map.
he really did.
So I'm very thankful I'm thankful for that. And the fans, Whitesnake fans are, you know, they're like all fans. When they're really into a band, they're very supportive. So I'm grateful for that.
You know, I was going to ask you a bit about Ronnie James Dio, but you touched upon that. So I'll finish with this because we've already done 30 minutes here. You played on the Slave to the Thrill album by Hurricane with Kelly Hansen, who of course is now Foreigner's singer. I just wanted to get your impressions of Kelly as a singer, and how was it playing in Hurricane for that short period of time?
It was cool. That was a really transitional point in my life, and I guess I was 20 something, 25 maybe, I can't remember, but I had kind of, my band Lion had broken up because we had signed a record deal that basically the record company gave us no support to tour, and even there was no chance to make any money. In fact, we went to an attorney to try and get out of it, and the guy goes, you know, I can't help you because you're never going to make any money to pay me, so I can't help you. So we ended up, you know, our drummer, Mark Edwards, got hurt in a motorcycle accident, and that was the end of it. But I had been approached right around that time from Ronnie and from a couple other bands about joining them. And I just kind of, you know, I just turned everything down. I just wanted to be with my bros. I was hoping that Lion was going to make it, and then we broke up. And all of a sudden, a management company that Lion had been working with was also representing Hurricane, and they said, you know, would you come down and, you know, jam with the guys and see if you guys think it could work? And we played, and it was great. It felt really good. It was fun to play. You know, obviously, my career is kind of, you know, like a lot of different people, you end up doing a little of this. Like even people like Eric Clapton was in a lot of different bands, you know, before he finally just went solo. But I didn't know what I was doing. I had no career plan whatsoever. I just loved to play, and if it felt good to play with, you know, with this particular group of musicians, and I wanted to do it, and that's how it felt with Hurricane. And we put a record out and toured, and Kelly and I, Kelly is, first of all, he's super talented, and I have major respect for him. His vocals are, his throat is bulletproof, and I'll tell you why, because I punched him in his throat one time before a gig, and he sang his ass off that night still. we got in a fist fight, and you know, it was just getting bad, and he grabbed a hold of my hair and was pulling me sideways, and I just swung, and I hit him right in the neck, and right in the throat, right in the Adam's apple.
Wow.
And he still sang his ass off. We got into it a couple times. One time we were on the bus, and the guy locked it up, and the bus was sliding down the street sideways because Kelly and I were tearing the place up. But that being said, we were really good together, and I love Jay Schoen's playing. He's such a
great drummer,
talented player, and Tony, of course, is like the gentle giant, you know. So it was fun, man. And I'm very glad for Kelly because, you know, it's funny. There is recently, I just, you know, it's just a goofy thing, but I'm going to mention it because the other day, Dee Snider hit me up on Twitter and was like, "So, what record did Doug play on? This is, important for Whitesnake or whatever." And then he started talking about, these guys that come into bands after they've already been famous. And I was just thinking to myself, first of all, what's the point, D? There's no point in going there. There's a lot of us who are guns for hire. That's what we are, man. No getting around it. We're all trying to pay bills, and we're just working. And just because you maybe don't know everything that I've done, it doesn't mean that some other people don't appreciate it. And that it kind of leads me to Kelly, because Kelly ended up being in a band down the road from when they were really their most famous. But he's been a huge part of Foreigner. I mean, Foreigner is able to bring the music to the fans still because of Kelly, because that stuff is hard to sing.
Yep.
It's really difficult.
Oh, I would argue that he saved Foreigner. I don't think there's any other rock voice out there that could fill the Foreigner role. I mean, sure, there's plenty of rock voices that could fill, Kiss or whatever. But in terms of Foreigner, Kelly is the only guy other than Lou Gramm who can do that job. And he just does it so well. Absolutely fantastic.
He really does.
Yeah.
He really does. He's a great-looking guy. He's very intelligent. He'll be the first one to tell you. He's got a super high IQ.
Yep.
And he used to tell me that, "Doug, do you know what my IQ is?" I'm like, "I don't give a shit what your IQ is." but
funny.
He's very intelligent, and I agree with you, man. Hey, so what my point being that it doesn't matter that Kelly wasn't the original guy. He's been a part of that band for now 10 years or I don't even know, but he's helping keep it alive, and he's helping steer the ship, just like what I was doing with Whitesnake,
Yep.
So I'm very happy for him. He's I think, like you said, he is the only guy that can do that gig in that way.
Yep.
There's two gigs, I'll say this, that are the most, that I feel are the most challenging vocally is Foreigner.
Yep.
And the second one being Journey.
Oh, and Arnell, yeah, who was on the
Arnell,
Revolution Saints album. Fantastic.
Yep, and that's where I was leading to, because Arnell, I'm sure you've met him, right, Mitch? You know him.
Yep. And hoping to meet him again, because Journey is coming to Montreal in July, so looking forward to that.
Well, I'm sure you will. He is, as you know, the guy is salt of the earth. He's the coolest dude. Mm-hmm. And yet, once again, he's not the original guy, but he does a great job, and they've written songs together, and he's moved the band forward, and that's what's important. And we were talking about guests for the record, and the obvious thing is originally bringing in friends of Dean's, and so we had that ball was kind of in motion, and I think Arnell is just it was really, really an honor to get him to sing on the record, because of course Dak is an amazing singer, and Dean sings his ass off on the record, and Dean's like the shining star.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
And yeah,
great revelation.
Having Arnell was great. Yeah.
Yeah,
But my point was that his voice is also, these guys, they're and these guys they're not kids, so your voice changes over the years, like anybody will tell you. But these guys just kick ass every night.
You're very right about Arnell. Steve Augeri helped keep Journey afloat. Jeff Scott Soto, filled a hole for Journey, kept them afloat for that summer tour that he did. But Arnell has really helped them move forward and move past it's the guys without Steve Perry. And he's helped get fans excited, and no other voice could have done it. Arnell is key.
Yeah. Well, it's important, because one day these bands, eventually there's going to be new bands taking over, and these bands are going to retire, at some point. I mean, I say that with a little bit of a kind of a smile, because look at the Rolling Stones are still going.
Right.
But it'll be touring will be less and less, for bands as you get older, and all these guys got families, I'm sure, and they just you know, they don't need the money. They do it because they love it, you know. But eventually they're going to be like, should I go on tour or should I go fishing?
Yeah.
I might, you know. But so I'm happy that they're kicking ass right now, and Arnell is able to do that. They can play a lot of shows and get to a lot of people. And I know that, you know, Dean is just such a badass on, you know, with Journey and on the Revolution Saints. I was listening to a couple tracks the other day, and his drumming alone is enough for me to buy the record. And then you mix in Jack, and Jack, I had only met Jack once prior to doing the record with him, and he is, when I got the tracks to play on, it was like a guitar player's wet dream, man. The bass is so fat, and he outlines all the chord changes with these really killer melodic lines that really make it so the guitar can just be simple.
Yep.
And the guitar stands up because the bass is doing the bass is pulling the load, you know? And that's what Jack's always been known for, but I didn't realize how amazing of a talented of a player he was until I actually played guitar on top of his bass. And of course, everyone knows he's a great vocalist. But the funny thing, Mitch, is when the three of us got together, we all have, you know, very different personalities. And Jack took on the leadership role. I think Jack is the leader, even though, you know, Dean's technically the front man of this band. Jack he took over like, okay, boys, this is how we're going to do this. You know, and let's not waste any time over here, guys. Come on, let's get this done. That's a good, okay, I like that part. He's a natural leader. And, you know, of course, I'm kind of like the shy guy. I just want to play guitar, and
right.
And I want to get onto that stuff. And Dean is like, he's like the Tasmanian devil unleashed, man. He's got so much energy, and he's all over. He's bouncing off the walls. Come on, guys, let's rock. You know, it's just really cool. There's a really good chemistry. But Jack is definitely, if we are able to do some shows and stuff, which if I was betting, I think it'll happen. But
I hope it does. I hope it does.
Jack is going to be, he's going to. I'm sure he'll be the general. He'll be the general on the road. Okay, boys.
Here's the order.
10 a.m. wake up call. Let's go. You know.
Well, listen, there might be a chance. I know that Arnell Pineda is working on a solo album this year, so maybe it'll give some room for the band members to be away and let Revolution Saints, fill the hole, get out there and play some shows. And I think it would be fantastic. You've got a great album, and then you could throw in some Whitesnake tunes and some Journey tunes and some, Night Ranger tunes. That's a show right there, folks. That's a show.
There's definitely some Whitesnake songs that I would love. Obviously I'm talking about songs that I wrote with David, not but stuff like Level Set You Free, played in a trio. I think played in a trio situation would be really cool. And songs like, I don't know if anybody ever can imagine that song "Good to Be Bad," with a different singer. Now, of course, it's not going to sound like Whitesnake, but the song will still stand up, and it'll be done in a different way. I'd love to do that. We talked about that, but once again, it's all down to schedules and if the interest is there. And when I mean that, it's like if we can put it together where it would be affordable for everyone to start up a tour and get out.
Well, listen, maybe next year you can just do the summer festivals out in Europe or something. Those are always easy gigs. They're 2 or 3 a week. They pay good money and easy fan base.
Yeah,
but
I'm down for whatever. I mean, you were talking about Burning Rain. We did a West Coast run in December.
Yep.
A West Coast U.S. run, and we were the 4 of us were in a van. Actually, there was 5 of us. Our buddy came. He didn't know what he was in for, but he ended up being manager, full road crew, lighting, sound. He did it, and he drove. We were in a van, and we put a bunch of gear and sleeping bags, so basically one guy could sleep at a time. And we just had a blast, man. It's like it got back to the roots. So I know Dean and Jack are the same. We're not spoiled to where we wouldn't appreciate just getting in a van and going. But it's just there's just logistics involved, you know. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see.
God willing, it'll happen.
And I'll say this last thing about Revolution Saints. I was sent the album before Christmas and spun it like crazy. But what I did is I threw out those free tracks. I have bought the Japanese edition on import, and I also went over to Pledge Music to get the deluxe edition because, first of all, I want to pay to support bands that I like, which is what everybody should do. And second of all, I want to get all the tracks possible. And I know the deluxe edition has more tracks, and I know the Japanese version has a bonus track, and I need them all because it's that good.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm the same way. You know, I buy everything that I get, and you know, it's not maybe the greatest way, but I download it from iTunes. I buy it there, and when I say it's not the greatest way, is because I don't think the artists actually get paid much for downloading music as they would if you bought the CD on Amazon.
Right.
But I just need it. When I find something that I want, or I see a picture of a new Blackberry Smoke record that's coming out or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want it now. I want to get it. You know, whatever it is. And I see a picture online, and there's a button that says, "Here, you can have it right now." And so I just end up doing that. But I don't think the artists get paid enough. And I can tell you that because I get some funny checks, man. Google sends me these checks. They're like, I'll get every quarter, you know, I'll get these checks that are just, it's almost like, why don't we just save ourselves the stamp and the gas that took to fly this check to me and just, you know, save up that money and give it to charity or something, because it's not that much, you know. So, you know, it's crazy. I think that artists should get paid better for downloads.
No, I fully agree. Even when I do interviews and stuff, I end up putting the interviews on YouTube after they've gone through iHeartRadio and all that stuff. And at 250,000 views, they sent me a check for little less than $100 for 250,000 views, and you're like, okay. So, you know, it really becomes, it's maintaining a hobby at this point. But listen, we all love music. We do it for the passion.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's why we do it. And, you know, it's hard to imagine, but I was talking to Howard Leese about it last night.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about, when are we actually going to start working? I say, Howard, when do we actually start working? Because we have just been doing this guitar thing for a long time. Mm-hmm. For a lot of years, it's been fun, but one of these days we're gonna have to get a job, man.
Yeah. And
we were laughing about it. Well, you know, I'm really in such a good place. I'm really happy for David. He's got a killer band that's getting ready to go on the road, and they got a new project coming out that I actually, you know, was there and helped in the first. We did a half dozen demos before I ended up leaving, but. Yeah. And it's going to be a great record. And but for me, I'm in a great place because I'm with my family. I'm playing guitar every day. I've got time to write and do some other things I never had time to do before. So if Revolution Saints wants to work, I'm there.
Yeah, let's work on getting that into a arena act. That's the mission.
What we should do is we should talk to David and Neil, and we'll get Whitesnake, Journey, Night Ranger, and Revolution Saints to all be on
a bill.
On a bill together, and we can all kind of trade off with each other. Joel can play some Night Ranger tunes, and I'll do some Whitesnake stuff sometimes. And then, but the point being, Revolution Saints will open the show.
Well, you know, listen. I mean, you're probably saying that facetiously, but from a fan's perspective, that is one hell of a Summer Shed tour right there, and just the prospect of you going on stage with Whitesnake for one, and Joel coming off stage and doing one with, that's sort of like a fan's wet dream just to see this sort of listen, that would do 20,000 a night. So, talk to them.
One day those types of, yeah. Maybe one day those types of tours. I mean, they do that sometimes with. And it was back in the 50s they used to do that, where they would be like a bunch of guys would go out with the same band, and it's a little goofy, but it's actually kind of makes sense from from a touring perspective because you cut down on so much costs.
Yeah.
So who knows, man? Maybe one day for fun, you know, that would be a situation that we could put together.
Yeah. Hey, listen, that sounds like a 2016 tour for me. So got to get to work on that. Make a few phone calls.
You got it. Well, hey, Mitch, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all you're doing for you know, keeping our music alive. We really appreciate it. I know you bust ass.
Yep.
And
thank you.
And we all really appreciate it. And thanks for your support on the Revolution Saints.
Absolutely, I love it. And of course, you know, I need to thank you for having played on Calling Dr. Love last year on the A World with Heroes Kiss tribute. That was for my wife's father, and the palliative care home. That track and the money raised was very special to us. And just thank you for having said yes and having lent your talents to it, because without you, it wouldn't have happened. And you know, it's over $30,000 that project raised. So
good. That's really good news, man. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm. You know what? I'm down for any kind of at this point, especially. I'll throw it out there. Kids charities, I'm down for, man. My boy actually it's another blessing. I mean, that I've kind of had more free time. My boy was just had to be in the hospital for a long period. He had a problem with his intestine and needed to get a surgery to have some of his intestine removed, and it was hardcore, man. And I just saw, you know, fortunately my boy is he's on a really good way now and healthy, and we're trying to get him to gain weight back because he lost a bunch.
He had did you say he had his intestine removed? Part of his intestine removed?
Yeah.
Wow.
What happens is sometimes people get, you know, a blockage, a full, like a twist in the intestine.
Yeah.
His was actually it was kind of a leftover birth defect thing of inside the belly. But my point is, he's doing great. But the point is that I saw a lot of kids that weren't doing great. A lot of kids that are just basically living in the hospital, and it's just, man, it breaks your heart.
Yeah.
I would do anything. I'm trying to see if I can find a way to get in there and just visit kids and play some music sometimes, because just play some acoustic guitar, even like 5 minutes. Because what they do is a lot of times they'll have people bring in like their pets, like, you know, someone will come to the door and say, "Hey, do you want us to, you know, do you want to see my dog?" And a lady will bring in her dog, and it'll sit on the bed, and the kid hasn't had any fresh air for 2 weeks or whatever, but at least he gets to, you know, pet a dog or whatever. I was thinking it was very kind of quiet all the time, and it would be nice to play a little music, you know, for the kids. So I'm looking into that. I don't really know how to do it because obviously, you know, there are security things and whatever for when you're dealing with kids that you got to be careful who's around. But I think it would make kids happy to hear some acoustic guitar and just, you know, make up some songs and sing a little bit. You know, absolutely. And if there's any kind of project that you put together, you can certainly count on me to you know, help you write a press release or work on it. I'll be more than happy to. And if you ever come to Montreal to play a show, I could certainly find a charity or an organization where you could maybe drop in the afternoon and do something. It would be my absolute pleasure. So. Well, I certainly plan on being in Montreal at some point, and I mean, Montreal is a kick-ass music town. Mm-hmm. And fantastic city. So I plan on being there. I would love it to be with Revolution Saints or Burning Rain, but you never know. It could be something else too. Yeah, listen, I'm hoping for Revolution Saints. That's my hope, and we'll see. We'll see what I can do to make it happen. Even if it's a one-off and whatever, but it's got to happen. Though you three guys together have made a fantastic album, and it's got to be seen live. That's my feeling. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Doug. Very much appreciated, and big love to your family, and look forward to seeing you. And enjoy your what's left of your winter time. It must be still on the ground there, right? Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's not like Boston, but it's minus 10 Celsius right now, which is like, you know, 15 degrees Fahrenheit or something. And yeah, it's enough.
I'm ready for some grass outside and some flowers and yeah.
Probably what 1 more month you got. So enjoy it while you can, because it's going to get hot.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, because that's the problem with Montreal. It goes from -30 to +30. You got that 60 centigrade swing, and you're like, oh, okay, well, a happy medium would be nice, but all right, there you go.
Well, you got good people there, man. It's all fine. All right, Mitch.
Thank you
so much for having me, man. And we could keep talking forever, so we better sign off. I'm taking my son actually I'm in Vegas at the moment. I'm going to go see the White Tigers that
oh wow,
that used to do this Siegfried and Roy. I'm taking him over there to see those cats.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Anyway, yeah, you're right. We could be doing this for the next 2 hours. So I'll say thank you, and I'll say have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day in Vegas, and we'll see you on the road.
Thanks, brother.
Bye, Doug.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. And there you have it, folks. My interview with Doug Aldrich of Revolution Saints and, of course, Burning Rain. If you like what you hear, please head over to iTunes, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you listen to this and leave a review. Reviews are always very helpful. And please follow me on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, and head over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/one-on-one-Mitch Lafon. Thank you for joining me, folks. I hope that you found Doug to be entertaining and revealing and certainly honest with his answers as I did. And I'll keep repeating it and keep repeating it and keep repeating it. Revolution Saints is the melodic rock album of 2015. If you don't have it, do yourself the favor, go get it. Thank you to Doug, and of course, thank you to Dean for having spoken to me last time. And hey, let's make this a trifecta. Let me see if I can get Jack Blades on the phone, and we'll just run the gamut with Revolution Saints, because this band, this album, and those three guys are worth supporting. Thank you, everybody.